Some people, I think, are like beautiful, sturdy-looking houses. From the outside, you see a fresh coat of paint, charming shutters, and a welcoming front door. You imagine warm lights inside, cozy evenings, a place of safety and comfort, but you have no idea what's really going on within those walls. Until someone leaves a window unlocked and you accidentally hear a secret whispered from a dark room. A secret that tells you the foundation is cracked and the whole perfect structure is just waiting to collapse. I met a man like that once. And the secret he told me on a quiet Friday night in an empty office didn't just change how I saw him. It changed how I saw myself. My name is Emma, and my life, for the most part, has been quiet. I like quiet. I'm 29 and I live in a sleepy little suburb just outside the roaring energy of New York City. Here, the loudest sounds are the chirping of birds in the morning and the laughter of kids playing in the street after school. It's a place of tall trees, little family-owned shops, and friendly neighbors who wave as you walk by. It's predictable, it's calm, and it's home. My days are just as predictable. Every morning, I take the 7:45 a.m. bus to my job at a small community bank near the train station. It's not one of those huge glass and steel corporate buildings. It's a simple brick building with a friendly, worn-in feel. I work at the front desk, the first person you see when you walk in. My job is simple. I greet customers with a smile, help them fill out forms, and point them in the right direction. Most days blend into one another in a gentle, rhythmic way. The morning rush of people depositing checks before work, the quiet lull of the afternoon, the friendly faces of the regulars who've been banking here for 30 years. Some people are kind and chatty, telling me about their grandchildren. Some are in a hurry, tapping their fingers impatiently on the counter. But I treat them all the same. I smile, I listen, and I help. It's a steady, peaceful existence. I'm not married. And in a town like this at my age, that's something people notice. At parties, my friends' mothers will pat my arm and say, "Don't you worry, dear, the right one will come along." People I've just met will ask, "So no husband yet?" As if it's a box I've forgotten to check on life's to-do list. I usually just smile and say, "Nope, I like being single." And most of the time, I mean it. My friends are all moving on to the next chapter: weddings, mortgages, babies. I see their happy photos on social media, and I'm genuinely happy for them. But I don't feel a pang of jealousy. My little apartment with my fluffy cat Momo and my stacks of books feels like a sanctuary. It's mine. It's peaceful, but that question, it does get tiring. One afternoon, a man I vaguely knew came to my desk. His name was Paul, my friend Clara's cousin. I knew for a fact he was married with 2 kids. He handed me some papers, smiled, and then, out of the blue, he asked it, "So, Emma, are you married?" I was a little taken aback. It felt so personal, so unnecessary. But I kept my professional smile on. "No, I'm single," I said. He started to say something, probably one of those well-meaning but annoying phrases, so I quickly cut him off. "I like being single," I added, my tone a little firmer than I intended. "It works for me." He got the message. He just nodded, smiled again, and left. But after he was gone, I couldn't shake the feeling of irritation. Why is that the default question for a woman in her late 20s? No one ever walks up to a married person and asks, "So, why are you married?" It's just accepted. But being single, that's something that apparently needs an explanation. I found my eyes scanning the office. Most of my coworkers were women. There was Linda at the next counter, newly married and always showing pictures of her honeymoon. There was Margaret in her 50s, whose kids were already in college. The men in the office were all married too. All except one. Daniel worked in the loan department in a cubicle at the back. He was 37 and had joined our branch about a year ago. He was the office sunshine. He was the one who made everyone laugh during our lunch break with a silly story. He was the one who always said, "Good morning, Emma," with a big, genuine smile that made you feel like he was actually happy to see you. He was smart, he was kind, and he was incredibly helpful. If an elderly customer was confused, Daniel would be the first one to walk over, sit with them, and patiently explain everything, no matter how long it took. And no, he didn't wear a wedding ring. The office gossip mill, which was always churning, confirmed he was single. A few of my younger coworkers had crushes on him. It was easy to see why. He was tall, with kind eyes, and a way of dressing that was always neat and put together. Crisp shirts, clean shoes. He just seemed solid, like one of those beautiful, sturdy houses. We didn't talk much, just the usual break room small talk. The weather, a funny article in the news, whose turn it was to make coffee. But the thing about Daniel was, when you spoke, he really listened. He'd stop what he was doing, turn to face you, and make eye contact. He made you feel like what you were saying was the most important thing in the world at that moment. And in a world where everyone is just waiting for their turn to talk, that feeling, it's rare. It's powerful, and I'll admit, I was a little drawn to it. Not in a head over heels way, but there was a quiet curiosity. I thought maybe he's one of the good ones. Then came that Friday night. We had to stay late. A client had made a huge mistake on a complicated loan application, and the paperwork was a mess. My manager asked if I could stay and help sort it out. By 6 p.m., the office was empty. The bustling sounds of the day had faded, replaced by the quiet hum of the computers and the gentle ticking of the clock on the wall. The bright overhead lights were off, and only the small desk lamps cast warm pools of light in the growing darkness. Was hunched over a stack of papers when I heard footsteps. It was Daniel. "Looks like you're burning the midnight oil," he said with a soft smile. "Something like that?" I sighed, rubbing my tired eyes. "Need an extra pair of eyes?" He offered. 2 heads are better than one. I was so grateful. "Really?" "You don't have to." "I don't mind," he said, pulling up a chair next to me. So we sat there, side by side, in the quiet, dimly lit office. We worked in a comfortable silence for about an hour, the only sound the rustling of papers. Then, out of nowhere, he stopped and turned to me. "Emma," he said, his voice low. "Can I tell you something?" I looked at him. His usual bright expression was gone. He looked serious, troubled. "Sure, Daniel." "What is it?" He hesitated, looking down at his hands. "I have a problem." "Okay." I waited, my heart starting to beat a little faster. He finally looked up, and his eyes were full of something I couldn't quite place. "I have trouble staying loyal in relationships." I just stared at him, confused. "What do you mean?" He sighed and looked away, towards the dark window. "When I'm with someone, after a while, I keep talking to other women, flirting, texting. I don't know why I do it. I just do." I felt a sudden chill despite the warmth of the office. The air suddenly felt thick and heavy. I didn't know what to say. He had just opened a door to a room inside him I never knew existed, and it was dark and cold in there. "Don't you care about the person you're with?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "I do," he said, and he sounded like he meant it. "I really do. But after a while, the excitement fades. I get bored. I always start looking for something new, something different." I was stunned into silence. I looked away from him, out the window at the empty street below. The bus stop was deserted, the streetlights casting long, lonely shadows. He had just confessed this ugly thing so calmly, as if he were talking about the weather. Part of me, the part that always wants to see the good in people, felt a pang of pity for him. He sounded so lost, but another, stronger part of me felt a rising tide of anger. That's not right. Daniel, I finally said, my voice quiet but firm. That's not a problem you have. That's a choice you make. If you commit to someone, you owe them your loyalty. It's not fair to hurt them just because you're bored. He looked at me and his voice was soft, almost pleading. I know you're right, but it's just so hard for me to change. We sat there in a heavy, suffocating silence. He had shared his secret and I had passed my judgment. The comfortable atmosphere was gone, replaced by this uncomfortable truth hanging between us. A week later, my curiosity got the better of me. I found him alone in the break room, and I had to know more. I needed to understand the shape of this darkness he carried. Daniel, I started gently, you mentioned you were in relationships before. What happened in your last one? He stirred his coffee, not looking at me. I lived with a woman. Her name was Linda. Okay. She was 46 years old, he said. She had 4 kids. I blinked. 4 kids. Yeah, he said with a shrug. 3 with her first husband, 1 with another guy. We didn't have any together. This was a whole life I couldn't even imagine. How long were you 2 together? I asked. 10 years, he said. My jaw almost dropped. A decade. We even bought a house together. So, did she leave you? I asked. He nodded slowly. Yeah, a couple of years ago. She sold her half of the house and just left. Why? I asked, holding my breath. He didn't answer. He just kept stirring his coffee, which had to be cold by now. I took a deep breath and asked the question that was hanging in the air. Was it because you were talking to other women, Daniel? He froze. His hand stopped stirring. He slowly lifted his head and looked at me, and his eyes were wide. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. The answer was written all over his face. The flicker of guilt, the flash of shame. That was it. After 10 years, after buying a home together, after helping her raise her children, he had broken her trust. He had chosen his boredom over her heart dot, and in that moment, any pity I had for him evaporated. It was replaced by a cold, hard clarity. You hurt her, I said quietly. You didn't just hurt her, you broke your promise to her and her family. All because you couldn't handle being bored. You only think about yourself. He looked away, his jaw tight. He said nothing. He just picked up his coffee cup and walked out of the room. After that day, everything changed. It was like a switch had been flipped. He stopped talking to me completely. The cheerful, "Good morning, Emma," was gone. He'd walk right past my desk, his eyes fixed straight ahead, as if I were invisible. If he needed something from the front of the office, he'd ask Linda or one of the other tellers. If I walked into the break room while he was there, he'd finish his coffee in a hurry and leave. The silence was deafening. At first it hurt. I felt like I was being punished for speaking the truth. I thought we were becoming friends, and I had cared enough to be honest with him. But now I realized he didn't want a friend. He wanted an audience. He wanted someone to listen to his confession and say, "Oh, you poor thing, it must be so hard for you." He didn't want to be held accountable. He didn't want to change. He just wanted to be excused. Weeks turned into a month, then 2. Spring bloomed outside the bank's windows, turning our sleepy suburb green and vibrant. But inside, a frost had settled between me and Daniel. I started to see him in a new light. I saw the way his charm was a tool. He used it to get what he wanted: admiration, attention, forgiveness. The beautiful house had a crack in the foundation, and now that I'd seen it, it was all I could see. One sunny Saturday, I met my friend Clara for lunch. We sat at an outdoor cafe, talking and laughing. Then she brought him up. Double quotes. "Hey, do you know that guy Daniel from your office?" She asked. I felt my stomach tighten. Yeah, I know him. Why? She laughed. Oh, I met him at a party last week. He's so funny. He was there with a woman. I think it's his new girlfriend. I just stared into my iced tea. Oh, was all I could manage. She's really pretty, Clara went on, oblivious to my mood. And so young. She couldn't have been more than 24 or 25. A wave of sadness washed over me. Not for me, but for her. This young woman who was right now standing on the porch of that beautiful house, admiring the fresh paint and charming shutters with no idea about the darkness inside. Clara must have noticed my silence. What's wrong? Did you ever like him? I thought for a moment. I thought he was a good person, I said slowly. But I don't think that anymore. I didn't tell her the whole story. It felt too heavy, too personal. It was his ugly secret, not mine to share. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. How could someone who causes so much pain just move on? Put on a fresh smile and start all over again, leaving a trail of wreckage behind him without a second glance. A few days later, I saw them. I was walking into work, and they were standing outside. She was holding his hand, looking up at him with trusting, happy eyes. He leaned down and kissed her, and he looked so happy, so charming. Later that day, as he walked past my desk, I couldn't help myself. Is that your new girlfriend? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. He turned, and a proud smile spread across his face. Yes, it is. She seems nice, I said. She's wonderful, he replied. I looked him straight in the eye. Are you going to be loyal to her? His smile vanished. The light in his eyes flickered and died. He looked at me for a long moment, his face a mask of anger and resentment. He didn't answer. He just turned and walked away. And I knew he wouldn't. The pattern would repeat. The beautiful house would eventually crumble. After that day, I let him go. I let go of the anger, the sadness, the disappointment. He was who he was, but I had a choice. I could focus on his darkness, or I could focus on my own light. I chose me. I poured all that energy back into my own life. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. I joined a class on Saturday mornings. I started taking long walks after work, exploring the little parks and trails around my town. I cooked myself elaborate meals. I filled my quiet apartment not with loneliness, but with peace. One evening, my manager asked me to join a new project team focused on creating financial literacy programs for young people. It was on that team that I met Josh. Josh was 32, quiet and thoughtful. He worked in analytics. He was the complete opposite of Daniel. He didn't command a room with loud jokes. He observed it with kind eyes. He listened more than he spoke. He was just himself. No performance, no charm offensive. One afternoon, he noticed I was on my fourth cup of coffee. He came over to my desk and silently placed a small cup of green tea next to my keyboard. You look like you could use a change of pace, he said with a small, shy smile. I laughed. Thanks, Josh. I tried it. It was warm and calming. He saw me take a sip and smiled again. See, he said, not everything new is bad. That line stuck with me. Not everything new is bad. Maybe not all men were like Daniel. Maybe genuine kindness did exist. But more importantly, I realized I had changed. The old Emma might have been desperately hoping for a man like Josh to come along and complete her life. But the new Emma? I was already complete. I liked my life. I liked my own company. And I wasn't willing to let anyone, no matter how charming, disturb my peace ever again. Autumn arrived, painting the trees in brilliant shades of orange and red. I saw Daniel and his girlfriend in the parking lot one day. They were arguing. Her face was streaked with tears. His was a mask of tired frustration. I felt a pang of sadness for her, but I kept walking. It was her story to live, her lesson to learn. That evening, I sat in my cozy living room with Momo purring in my lap. I felt a deep sense of calm. Peace, I realized, isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about becoming a person who doesn't need one. It's about building your own beautiful, sturdy house on a foundation of self-respect and honesty. A house where you feel safe, where you feel warm, and where you are enough, all on your own. A few weeks later, Josh asked me if I wanted to go to an art museum with him. We talked about paintings and books and our favorite kinds of tea. It was easy. It was simple. There were no secrets whispered in the dark, only honest conversation in the light. I don't know where it will lead or if it will lead anywhere at all. And for the first time in my life, that's okay. I'm not waiting anymore. I'm not hoping for someone else to change. I'm just living. And my quiet little life has never felt so full.